Hi, I'm Darren Johnston, and I am working on the Tectonic Theater Project WMU collaboration Good Death.
All right, so this has been a huge week, it looks like,
Yeah.
from walking in to today's practice. Can you give us some updates?
Well, we've started to find the story. Um, eh, we had done all those interviews, and then for 2 weeks we've been playing with what kind of theatrical moments can we make out of these interviews and this research and all of this crazy stuff that we had. And now what we're starting to do is really say, how do these things relate to each other? How do they connect? And we've started to find a story, and not to give anything away, but we essentially took a bunch of butcher paper, covered a wall, started with what we thought the first event was, and the first kind of topic was, and then how that moves throughout the show and how that leads from one character's story to the next character's story, and how these things kind of intertwine and overlap. And so now we kind of have a basic framework skeleton for a story. And what we're doing over the course of this week is really fleshing each of those sections out. Right now there's about 8 kind of parts to the script of the story. And we've all divided up in groups of, I think, 3 to 5, something like that. And each group is responsible for fully fleshing out that section. And then we're going to take a day, I think either Friday or Sunday, I'm not sure, to really just show them all back to back and kind of see like a basic, really rough version of the show for the first time. And then we'll start refining, and maybe the scene should go in the end instead of the middle and stuff like that. But we're going to, by the end of this week, have a rough performance of the show for the first time.
Did the title
Euthanasia,
Good
the
Death
word euthanasia, actually literally means good death. And so it became kind of a question more of, what is a good death? Is it euthanasia? Is it dying in your sleep? Is it, no meds at all natural? What is a good death? Because death, whether it's the Kevorkian part of it or the community aspects that we're exploring in this play.
How do you think that your audience is going to take to this subject matter, to this play?
It's been really different. Every person that I've talked to about it becomes very intrigued by it, because there's so many different aspects to the story and the topic. I mean, the story, there's all this legal drama of who did he kill the guy, and was it murder, and was it this, and was it that, and was he guilty? And then even when you get into the community, what's the pro-life people versus the pro-choice people, and the life and death, literally the life and death stakes every character has in play, which you only get sometimes in plays. And then in a community aspect, it's really interesting because people, it's questions that we don't really ask in America, or in Kalamazoo or in Western culture. We don't like death. We put it in a corner. We try to hide it. We try to escape it. And this show kind of makes you face it. And people have really varied responses to that. Some people are really excited to finally, bring this out in the open, and some people are a little uneasy about it because, it's a taboo and all these sorts of things, even though it's something that we all do and all will go through eventually. But I think there's a little bit of an excitement, a little bit of buzz, and I mean, it also helps that the Tectonic Theater Project, who is this world-renowned theater company, one of the biggest theater companies. They've had shows on Broadway, they've won Pulitzer Prizes, all this stuff. They're here working with us, creating a brand new show for the first time with the university. So that lends us a whole other level of excitement to the process, and I'm ready to see what happens.
Here we are with Jasmine, catching up on week 2 of our video blogging for the Western Herald of Good Death. All right, Jasmine, can you give us a few updates? Personally for you?
Yeah, it has gotten considerably more difficult, which I wasn't really expecting. I don't think anybody could have really prepared me for this, but I guess when we were told that we were going to be creating a play, that meant we would be creating a play. And somehow part of that went over my head. And I don't know, when we got into the actual playwriting process of it, I realized that, we have to write the play too for the first time, which is kind of silly because we were told that all along. So it's gotten considerably more difficult. And I'm sure that Darren's told you we've been split up into groups now.
Yeah.
And so I'm working in a group of 4, and we're working with the people who have been personally touched by euthanasia. And we're working with people in the death and dying community, rabbis, There are a few nuns, people like that, hospice workers. And so now the task is to weave all of these stories together somehow, some way. I don't really know yet. And it has to be about a 25-minute piece of theater by Thursday our group has to create. So
How has your group been condensing all of this information to 20, 25 minutes?
Well, yesterday we had our first group work day, and all of us kind of missed the point a little. And not that we didn't miss the point, but we all kind of showed our little 5-minute segments, and they weren't bad, but we were really struggling to figure out how to put all this material together. And so hopefully today we'll know a little better, but especially with our group, we at least have 3 main characters that we're working with, and that's a really good starting place for us. So outside of that, it's whoever we can fit in. Whoever's material works best with our material. The characters, some people say stuff like the hospice worker. She says a lot of stuff about euthanasia that really feeds some of our stories, and I think that's the stuff we'll end up using. But our group also is really trying to fit in the man on the street interviews, which are just little blurbs about death. How do you define death? We ask, random people. So that's where we are right now, and hoping that in these few days, somehow, miraculously, inspiration is just dumped on our heads, and we'll sew it all together, and it'll be...
How does it feel to have a little bit of set up now?
That's really nice. We were in the other theater for a few days, and we really found it difficult to do anything because we didn't have a catwalk to use. We didn't have a lot of the materials that we'd been using, which really made things kind of difficult. So now that we're in there, it's nice to have this set, but now we have all the rules about the set, like they're fake walls, you can't really lean on them. Things like that, or behind you there's like a 12-foot drop-off, don't fall, things like that. So it's a work in progress, but it's really comforting to see that at least our world is being built. Our play is being built, but at least the world is tangible. It's a little comforting.